What is up, my dudes? This is Trent with the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Today is brought to you by our friends over at Trophy Smack. Head over to trophysmack.com/dudes, 15% off your whole entire fantasy football trophy, guys. Help make that fantasy football league just a little bit more special with a completely customizable trophy and last place participation award. Today's episode, we have our week 8 matchup starts, sits, and sleepers. Before we dive into all the week 8 matchups, let me throw it over to my dudes. I'm joined by Jordan, Phil, and Seth. And if you're into motivational podcasts and you're a Chiefs fan or a Russell Wilson fan, then this might be the pod for you. So go ahead and turn that volume up. With Hopkins being at the Chiefs, Jordan's super fired up. Phil is partying like the Legion of Boom is back now that Russ had such a good week last week. So we'll see if that stuff can carry on. But yeah, you guys all doing good, hanging in there. Phil, Russ is back. I'm surprised you aren't wearing your Seahawks Wilson jersey at the moment, if I'm being completely honest.
I definitely considered it. I think I think Russell Wilson finish he finished QB1.
QB3.
QB3.
Lamar and Baker.
Oh, you're right after those games. But as of Sunday, he was QB1, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Sunday night he went off. And to be fair, that was from my league scoring. There was no weekly finishes out yet, so that was just for my current league.
Correct. Mm-hmm. But I will say though that I think the bigger story here is Jordan has had to overcome some adversity in the last couple of weeks, and so I just want to give it a round of applause for him. He has come back. He dug his heels in. He dug a trench. He returned enemy fire. He's back in the W column multiple times this week already, starting the week off with a bang. Jordan, we need to talk about your bets. You went through some things. You overcame adversity. This is a Bubba Sparks novel, basically. Or is it Bubba Sparks? Or what's the guy's name again?
Nicholas Sparks.
Nicholas Sparks. This is a Nicholas
Sparks. Oh my goodness! Those will start seeing Laffy Taffy next or
this
something.
This is a Nicholas Sparks. This is a Nicholas Sparks type comeback. This is a Cinderella story. Things that couldn't be written in Disney. Jordan, you're on. You basically went to the depths. You're rising like a phoenix. What's going on, dude? Like, are you just straight cash homie right now? Are you spitting money out of your ears? Like, I feel like you've been on a heater the last. Like, your back was up against the wall and you just made green happen. Like, what's going on, dude? Talk us through it.
I found you, Miss Newt. Never mind.
I don't. Sure, Phil. I'll take the compliment, but like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm that big of a heater yet. So.
No. So Jordan goes like, I'm not going to say how much. He's like, I'm like, I think he was just.
I did. You're right. I said that. And then I cashed an NBA play yesterday. And so
you cashed 2 plays, didn't you?
I did. I might've cashed 2.
I have to admit, I texted behind your back. You're in a bloody rage and you're like, I'm going to add X amount of dollars in. I'm not adding any more. And then like literally not 5 minutes later, 4 plays slide into my inbox. And I'm like, this is the exact amount that he just said he was putting in. Like, is this all going to be over in an evening? And so I sent that to Trent. I'm like, what's going on with this dude? Yeah. And then you actually hit, you hit some plays there. So like,
he put 1-800-GAMBLER in his phone and he's like, I'm calling this automatically if these don't go through.
This is pun intended.
No, but I called and the guy said, hit the deposit button, and I hung up. Just kidding. That didn't actually happen.
The guy's not like, advice. Jordan. He's all, actually, Jordan, you got a good point here. Like, yeah, this is not for you. Deposit. He's all, what? Boost Tober? All NBA plays on Underdog, 20% bonus? Yes. No. Wait 1 more month, my man.
Haven't you seen that meme of the guy? It's like that big guy that's laying just like on the cat, like he's laying on the cash. That's basically Jordan after his most recent plays. But please put that image on YouTube, Trent. I'm surprised you didn't have that dialed.
No, I did not have that dialed.
But anyhow,
Seth, you're back from Atlanta. You doing okay, buddy? You want to come see style, okay? Like complete drip. Then don't head over to YouTube at tffdudes because I look pretty good myself. But Seth is sporting a wife beater, a really cool dude's hat, and then I don't know, some gamer headphones. But Seth, how you doing, man? Like the drip game, like just one word to describe your night, Seth. Are you down bad? You doing okay? Like Or has
No.
your wife not washed your clothes? Like what's going on here, man?
No, I'm doing great. Just
Okay.
put on something I want that is comfortable, So
Okay.
just what I'm wearing. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was in Atlanta. I didn't go to the Seahawks game like I probably should have. And then I found out on Monday that a guy I work with had box seats with a company that we also work with. They're based out of Atlanta. They had box seats, and he got to see the DK Metcalf touchdown like up close. And I'm just pretty mad I wasn't there. But I guess it just wasn't meant to be. I guess I could have bought some cheap tickets and then found out that one came in. I could have got that one, but I've been gone a couple days and I was just excited to get home. So, but maybe next time I end up staying. And doing
Basically,
it,
what Seth is saying is that he's whipped and his wife told him to come home.
Basically.
Yeah, maybe if I didn't go on Wednesday, maybe I would have been okay, but we'll see.
Are you Air Bud who says like I was just excited to get home? Like, is that a Disney movie? It's
a Bubba Sparks quote.
Yeah.
Quote.
Did the clock strike midnight, you princess,
Well, I mean,
and you're ready to be home?
Work, you're able to come home that night. It's like when you're on a trip, you're kind of like
It's true.
You're still at the hotel, and like you can only like watch so many movies, And guess what I ended up doing? I didn't even watch movies. I did this stinking podcast.
Yeah. And how is your roommate? Rate him 1 out of 5.
Yeah, there's budget cuts at work, so Seth did have a roommate on this trip, so I don't blame him for wanting to come home.
Yeah, he was snoring the first time, and then the second time he was just laughing the whole time while I was doing it.
What was he laughing
I don't even know why. It wasn't even that funny, but he just maybe thought it was just weird. I don't know.
The podcast, or you mean
to be fair, that guy has no idea what a podcast is. His IQ's like -12. So
also, though, if I saw you walking around a hotel room in a white tank top and a gold chain, I probably would be giggling too.
I was not wearing that. It was a bathrobe.
It was a bathrobe.
So basically, he had less on then than he does now. But guys, it is week 8. We have no buys this week. No teams on bye. We got a full schedule. But the good thing is we kind of have some stats on kind of what's been working, what's not been working. We kind of got tendencies down, stuff like that. So I think we have some buys next week. We got some good games here. So we got our starts and sits. We're gonna dive into that. Let's dive into those right now. We're gonna start it off with our Thursday night preview first. Phil and Jordan, you have the totals from last week. You want to give those to us real quick, Jordan?
So last week, let's see. I went 10-5. Seth went 10-5, and then Trent and Phil both went 11-4. So,
dude,
Trent has 3 wins. Seth has 2.5. Phil has 1.5. I still have 0. I'm not even on the board yet, so I got some work to do here. It is.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
Wait, am I winning? Is that what you said?
No, Trent is. Trent 3, Seth 2.5, Phil 1.5.
Probably surprises no one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, the thing is that's funny is that I have tied for first 3 times. That's why I have 1.5 points. But then obviously Trent, I think you've won outright twice. Is that correct, Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah, Trent has won outright twice. Seth has won outright twice too. And then
so
Trent
what does Seth have?
Seth has 2.5.
Oh, and I have 1.5, huh?
Yeah, you tied 3 times.
It's pretty sad because like once I got eliminated from my survivor pool in week 3, like I've just been like my picks have been pretty good. So, but maybe those are the hardest picks in the survivor pool, right, Jordan? How many people do you think are out? Like how many people?
I don't even know.
5?
I'd have to look at the email. I get the emails, but I don't really pay attention to them. There's got to be less than 20 left.
Yeah,
15,
it's
maybe 10.
We'll do one next year on Sleeper since we'll have time to prep for it. Since we know it's kind of coming, we'll get that all fired up, get that all tuned up to be good. But Phil, you got the lines.
What did you just say? We'll get that all fired up to be good. We'll get that all tuned up to be good.
I don't know, Phil. You know what, Phil?
We'll get that all fired up to be
I
good.
could go after you if I wanted to, Phil, but I'm not going to. Okay. It's just
go after me. What are you going to go after? My height or my weight, dude? Like
no, I'm not. We're doing a show, man. Like,
all right,
10-minute huddle. Let's break the huddle. I do my talking on the field, Phil. So today's episode.
I love how you spell Minnesota in the sheets.
Yeah.
All right.
Thursday Thursday night preview is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, like I said earlier, it is Boostober right now, guys. So that's 20% on all your NBA, 20% boost on all your NBA plays. Head over to Underdog Fantasy, enter promo code DUDES. They'll match you up to $1,000. It's that simple, guys. They got weekly drafts you can do. You can do them with buddies, do them with people you don't even know. You got pick'ems on NBA, NFL, MLB World Series. All you got to do is pick the higher and the lower the projection, and you can win some decent amount of your money. Just depends how many multipliers you do, but you have to have at least two, and they have to be at least two different teams. They even got first quarter action. And if you want to do a Thursday night, little first quarter action, you can do Sam Darnold over 52.5 passing yards, Justin Jefferson over 17.5 receiving yards, Kyron Williams over 0.05 or a half a touchdown, Cooper Kupp over 13.5 receiving yards. Those are all first quarter plays. Just for example, some examples, guys. And if you want more,
that's got to be a crazy big multiplier there.
That's got to be, it was one of those that they had like pre-played, like you could copy and play. I'm like, who actually does the pre-play Underdog plays, But we do have an Underdog show every Friday. Head over to YouTube at tffdudes. See Jordan and Seth give their favorite Underdog plays each week, but it is only available on YouTube. Phil, Thursday Night Football, you want to kick this off, buddy? Get this party started, as Bubba Sparks would say.
Get this party started. All right. So we have the Vikings at the Rams. The Vikings currently favored by 3. And the total right now is 48.5. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. There's also some drama going on there with the Rams, some trade riffraff going on there. But what are you guys thinking here? Any thoughts, any comments just on the Rams overall and what this game will look like? I will note Minnesota coming off their first loss last week.
It would be pretty awesome if this trade happened at halftime, Jordan, straight up baseball type trade. You know what I'm saying?
Today they said there was no truth to the Stafford to the Vikings.
But why would that even make sense? Darnold's been playing pretty decent. Or did he get hurt?
Probably because Stafford's ceiling is a little higher. I don't know. He's a veteran, older guy.
Yeah.
They kind of look alike. They look similar. You know what I'm saying a little bit? Do you guys see that?
Not exactly, but
all right.
I don't know. I'm not into that. I don't know. Maybe just because McVay wants a younger quarterback, Darnold's kind of on the younger side compared to Stafford, and maybe Vikings are in win now mode. Maybe I don't know, and looking for a 1-year rental because I think they believe in JJ McCarthy. Because basically, what I've heard is that front office, if McDonald says this guy can play quarterback, they're for it. And so they said this offseason, he was really fired up all offseason about Darnold and JJ McCarthy. So I think at this point, with how well he's done with Darnold, I think people probably agree with that. But this game, Cooper Kupp finally back. Is that what it's looking like, Jordan?
Yeah, he's
maybe.
Playing.
And Puka, I believe, right?
No, Puka's not playing.
You think there's no weight to the Cooper Kupp trade either, Jordan?
No. I think Cooper Kupp's going to get traded. I would definitely see that happening.
Yeah. Who else here? This is a good. Was it Vikings? Vikings are a good wide receiver matchup, aren't they?
They are. It's a good spot for Kupp to come back.
Yeah. So make sure I got these. So Kyron Williams, Viking side, Aaron Jones is looking maybe one of the best value draft picks you could have gotten in your fantasy drafts. Guy's looking pretty good. Always injury concerns there, of course. Your Jefferson, hopefully an Addison bounce back game. I know as a guy that drafted Addison some leagues, that'd be nice. What notes do you kind of have here for this, Jordan, on Thursday night?
Just it's a pretty good matchup for Stafford and Kupp. And the problem is it's hard to know what's after that. There's just nothing. It's just a mess behind them. I think Kupp comes back off the injury. I think he's fully healthy. I think he comes back into his normal role. And then I think you just play your Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson on the Vikings.
Jordy, it said Nacua could come back as early as week 8. You just think it's going to be one more week out or what?
I mean, he just got activated off the IR. I think we would know if he was playing. I mean,
He could
I
return
have
as
to
soon as
look.
week 8 on Thursday night against the Vikings.
I just
This
hadn't.
is USA Today, so it could be. I don't know anything about USA Today. I'm not going to say it's fake news. I got to try and find something else, but
I'm looking at NFL inactives on Fantasy Life, and what I got for Puka Nakua is I just got limited practice on Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. According to this, on Wednesday coming out Thursday, so maybe they put.
I would
I
lean he
guess there's a
doesn't come
chance.
back. He's questionable.
I think if it was a Sunday game, I think he'd come back. I think the Thursday kind of messes it up. So total on this game, there could be this should be a good Thursday night football game. You got the Vikings coming off a loss. Rams finally got Cooper Kupp back. Minnesota's favored by 3. I think you just start your studs in this game, Jordan. I don't think you try to overthink it. TJ Hawkinson, is he back? Did you mention that, Jordan?
I had not seen if he was back. Is he
limited
back?
practice on TJ Hawkinson? I'm guessing he
same
might be
as
one
last
more
week and he didn't play.
Yeah, so I'm gonna guess one more week for old TJ. And he's still rostered very high on sleeper. So you're not getting for a guy who hasn't played 7 weeks. So I think Thursday night football. Start your guys, and I think we can pick the winner here in this. Then we'll get into our starts and sets. Thursday night football.
I mean, it's hard, and it's hard.
Go ahead,
what, Phil?
No, it's hard to knock the Vikings on their loss. The Lions just look darn good, right?
Yeah. The Lions look good.
I'm going Minnesota.
I'm going Minnesota.
I'm going to go Minnesota as well. And Seth, I think
we have been doing this pod for about 3 years, and you're still finding yourself on mute.
Go ahead. I double press it. That's what happens.
I'm just messing with you.
I press it, and I don't think it goes through, and I press it again, and it mutes it right back.
Seth has routines, guys, and that's just what he does. It's okay. Like, you should see his skincare routine. Like, it's so many steps. You'd think he's training for a marathon, but he's just washing his face. So, anyways, Phil, what's our next matchup we got here going over to Sunday? London game this week, right?
It's really odd that you know that.
Is the Germany game next week?
It's a couple weeks, I think.
Okay.
Yep. You could have just looked it up before you asked. But so the next game that we have is Panthers at Broncos. Broncos are currently favored by 8.5. Gosh, the Panthers are just so bad. Current total right now is 43.5. Jordan, you have a start. Let's go and hear it, big guy.
Yeah, I got Javonte Williams as my start this week. This is the best possible matchup for running backs. Panthers are so bad. It's crazy how bad they are against running backs. Give up the most rushing yards, most touchdowns. I think it's like 13 touchdowns, 12 or 13. The most fantasy points to running backs. Javonte has pretty much grabbed complete control over this backfield the last few weeks. He's sitting at about that high 60% mark, that 65, 66, 67% mark the last few weeks when it comes to snap share. Last week, he had kind of his breakout game of the year. 14 carries, 3 catches. He had 2 touchdowns. He's getting the goal line work there. So I think this is a really, really good spot for Javonte. He seems to have control of this offense. Of this run game. I mean, Panthers are starting Bryce Young. We saw how that worked out. Like, they were even less competitive. So, I mean, the Broncos this is in Denver, I believe, right? In Denver. So, like, you have the home field advantage of the altitude there. I just don't see this Panthers team competing. I think Denver gets out big and they run Javonte quite a bit. I could see like another 16, 17 carry game, 100 yards and a touchdown on Javonte here. I think he's like a really top play this week at running back.
Yeah, he's looked good. He's looked, he's gotten better. The whole Denver team has kind of pulled together a little bit too. And I talked about this on the waiver pod, Jordan, but I like Bo Nix in this matchup. I think he's going to run.
I think
Panthers are giving up 17 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. I think this is a good get right spot for him. Maybe he sets some stuff up with the play action. He has back-to-back 20-point fantasy performances, back-to-back weeks. I don't hate it. This is a good spot for a young quarterback to kind of, get into a rhythm. And he's playing solid. And his rushing upside, I think he had 75 rushing yards last week against the Saints. So I would think he can run the ball in this one too. Only thing you're hoping is maybe Cam Sutton bounces back because he gave up a complete stinker last week. Cortland, man. I always mess that up with that old Fresno State Cam Sutton, man. That's the other one I mess that up with is I call Juju Smith-Schuster Juju Hughes, and that's no one knows what we're talking about when you say that one. Yeah, so those habits die hard. Is there anything else we need to talk about on this game? Like with Bryce Young there, I don't even know if I want to play Chuba Hubbard.
No.
And
or Deontay.
And sit Deontay. Like terrible matchup for Deontay. Broncos are absolutely terrible against wide receivers.
Hey, Trent, again, I feel like this is like 4 weeks in a row. Broncos got to be a top 3 option at defense like this week. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they've been probably one of the bigger like people probably didn't draft Broncos defense, and I think they got to be up there for like highest scoring defense, right?
They're good.
Oh yeah,
they're like double digits every week of defense.
And their corner is going to be coming back also.
Broncos are number 2 defense.
Yeah. Were they behind Chiefs, Seth?
I
think they're behind the Chiefs, maybe.
I don't know. It's not the Chiefs. Chiefs defense is
it
not as good as you think.
Could just be your scoring format too. The other with the Broncos Chiefs, that'll be riveting television when that game happens. I'm going to go here and say Broncos win. Is anyone going Panthers? # keep pounding. Anyone going with the Cats?
Negative.
No.
Seth, I'm surprised Phil doesn't try to take the spread on stuff like this. You used to always do that, Phil.
I'm so glad you reminded me. I wish I could do that again, but you guys all kept vetoing it.
I'm taking the Broncos. The number 1 defense is the Vikings.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Number 1 fantasy defense.
Thanks for looking that up, Seth. I'm being serious when I say that. Trent throws
just work on the tone a little bit, Phil. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could be just a little nicer about it. Like, that's like,
hey, do me a favor and just shut up.
That's equivalent, Phil, to when like someone says like, hey man, what are you like? Why would you do that? And you just give them the thumbs up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's basically how you said that. So.
What's funny is one of my kids does that oftentimes to me. Like, hey, what's going on here? And it'll just be thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm like, well, I do need a little bit of an explanation. All right, moving on.
That's why I
here.
only thumbs up your text messages. I'm basically doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we have Falcons at Bucks. Current total right now is 45.5. Atlanta favored by 2.5. Both teams coming off of a loss. Seth, you have a start in this game, and Jordan, you have a sleeper in this game. Seth, let's start with you.
So the big news with the Bucks is that Godwin is hurt. I believe he's out for the season potentially the whole season with an ankle injury. And then Evans, we saw what happened to him on that almost touchdown grab. He just messed up his hamstring. Probably shouldn't have been playing. So now the Bucks are down to some receivers who haven't had that much work as the number 1s, 2s, and 3s. But that's not the start. My start this week is Rachaad White. So Rachaad White has had a pretty slow start to the season. I know they were looking at a 3-headed monster, but with how the game worked, I think Rachaad White got most of the work. He ended up being RB2 on the week for week 7. He only had 40 rushing yards, but had 2 touchdowns receiving and 6 catches, 72 yards. So he has that receiving upside. I think with Godwin and Evans hurt, I think we're going to see Rachaad White from last year with having a low rushing upside, but a very high receiving upside. So if you have this guy in PPR leagues, like fire him up, he's going to get you receiver number points. So I think this is a good start for me this week. I think he's going to be right now he's ranked outside of the top 25 running backs for the week. So I believe he should be finishing top 10 just with his receiving upside. And I also think the Bucks are going to be trailing to the Falcons here. So I think that just bolsters Rachaad White's snap count.
Yeah. I think the only thing before we get to Jordan's sleeper, the only thing that's worrying people is just the 3-headed monster they have back there of just like what's going on. Cause I can't even find Sean Tucker on my list right here, but Bucky Irving is getting 60% of the red zone touches within the 5-yard line. 60% of the red zone carries. And then White's only getting 30%, but White is a deadly, receiver out of the backfield. I just wonder how much can the Bucs just continually run these screen passes to running backs without, a lot of wide receiver help. And I guess I could go to Jordan sleeper with that would probably be the appropriate thing to do. Jordan, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so I got Jalen McMillan as my sleeper rookie out of who played at Washington last year on that team that won the national championship with Michael Penix. He started out the year as a starter on 3 wide receiver sets, got hurt, was out a few weeks, came back this last week, and then he started the game in the 3 wide receiver sets with Godwin and Evans. And now he fills that role. To me, the 3 wide receiver set should be Palmer, McMillan, and Sterling Shepard. I think Jalen McMillan is by far the most talented of those 3. Definitely more talented than Sterling Shepard at this point in their careers. And Atlanta is a top half matchup for wide receivers. So basically, they're about an average matchup across the board in all wide receiver stats. Like I said, opportunity without Evans and Godwin. He had 8 targets last week, played 60% of the snaps, was starting in that 3 wide receiver set to start the game. So I like Jalen McMillan. I think he could be a guy who's good the rest of the year, honestly, especially if Godwin's going to be out. He's versatile, can play in the slot, can play outside. So I like McMillan quite a bit. And again, that 8 targets kind of tells you that Baker does trust him. I think he's a guy who the Bucs wanted to get involved with those guys healthy. And I think with those guys not healthy, I think they're going to use him quite a bit.
Yeah. And then going to the other side of the ball, Jordan, Bucs probably going to have to score points in these games they play. Their defense isn't great.
Yeah.
And Falcons can score points. The Bucs are bottom half. They are the 7th best fantasy matchup for running backs, giving up 22 half-point PPR fantasy points to running backs each week between all running backs. So that probably means that, Tyler Algier will get 2 touchdowns and Bijan Robinson will get, 70 yards rushing. But it's a good, it's a pretty good spot.
It's a good spot, but it's like, they're not as good against the run as they have been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you look at that game from Monday night, they had Henry bottled up until the 4th quarter. Henry stats looked deceiving because he had the huge 80-yard run. And then I think he had another 40-yard run in that 4th quarter. So he had 120 yards rushing in that 4th quarter. Other than that, they were doing a pretty good job against him. But they're really, really bad against wide receivers, I feel like.
Yeah.
So they're definitely more of a pass funnel, it feels like to me. I do think before last week, Trent, they were not a great matchup for running backs. I'll just say that. Okay. And then the Derrick Henry numbers definitely inflated that. If I'm remembering correctly, they're pretty much a pretty pass funnel in my eyes. So I do like Drake London. I like Darnell Mooney. I like Pitts, I guess, is okay. I think Bijan's still fine. I don't mind that. Obviously, you're playing Bijan, but
these are 2 top 10 fantasy defenses you want to target for wide receivers.
For sure.
So this could be one of the better matchups. This could be one of those that's on Red Zone a lot this Sunday. So anything else we want to? I'm leaning. I'm going to go Bucs on this one. I'm going to go Bucs. I crazy saying that. You guys,
I'm going to go Atlanta.
I'm going Hotlanta. Jordan. So should I go Cousins or Goff?
Cousins, for sure. Cousins.
Okay.
I'm going Falcons.
Who are you guys taking?
I'm going Tampa Bay coming back.
Yeah.
At home.
Phil, Seth.
I said Falcons.
Falcons.
Yeah. Seth was just in Atlanta, so he has a bathrobe from there, so he kind of feels like he's attached to the city.
Cool. All right, moving on here. We have the Ravens at Browns. Current total right now is 44.5. Baltimore currently favored by 9.5 with J-Mo at the helm. Trent, you have a sleeper in this game. There's been a lot of good memes for Jameis Winston this week. There's the photo of him, and then on one side it's a little devil, and the other side it's the angel. And the devil says he's open, go deep, and the angel's like, be conservative. And we all know what JMO likes to do, throwing those YOLO balls. So Trent, go ahead here.
All right, my sleeper of the week here. I got Cedric Tillman. Ravens are the best fantasy football matchup for wide receivers. We saw what Baker did last week, and really everyone throws on him. So Ravens are the best fantasy football matchup for wide receivers. And that's really the only stat I have for Cedric Tillman. I saw Jameis Winston throw him a lot of passes in garbage time. I believe he had the second most targets on the team last week. Baker can give him steady stream of targets. He'll keep it going. Phil said YOLO balls already once. This is more of a Jameis Winston opportunity play for me, and I think Cedric Tillman could capitalize on that. So this is a very deep streamer for me, or sleeper for me, but I like Cedric Tillman in the matchup because I know Jameis will be slinging it the whole entire game. So it's when Jameis Winston plays, it's just I want to watch. There's going to be turnovers, there's going to be touchdowns. So, we've talked about that for like the last 2 years. So yeah, I like Cedric Tillman in a deep league. This is a very deep sleeper for me, though. I think this is a great Njoku spot, though, Jordan.
Yeah, no, definitely, like you said, mentioned a clear pass funnel for the Ravens. Really good spot. It's funny because I'll be honest, I didn't know you had him as your sleeper. I didn't look, and I was going to ask you if you had him on your waiver show. That's what I was going to ask. But
no,
I think he's a pretty like. I think it's a pretty solid play, Trent. Like, he had 8 catches for 81 yards last week. Jameis Winston's going to throw it. He was super talented at Tennessee. I know Tennessee's like one of your 5 favorite college football teams, so I know you watch them.
They're definitely in the top 10.
Yeah, so he was really good there. And, I've always liked his talent. I'm surprised that he hasn't kind of done more in the league so far. So definitely has an opportunity here to kind of capitalize on opportunity. And I think Jameis is a lot better fit for him than Deshaun Watson was. So, yeah, it's a really good spot for Jameis. I think I like Jameis, Cedric Tillman, and Njoku probably too much, but I don't know. It's a really good spot, and this feels like a spot that Jameis could take advantage of.
Oh, no, this could be one of those games that you're like, you have Lamar making crazy plays on one side of the field, and then you have Jameis on the other side just, going deep, like Phil said with that meme. So maybe it's just because I don't know. Looking at the whole, like when I was entering the point totals, Jordan, it seems like week 8 has a lot of good games, like a lot of good totals. Maybe that's just because there's no buys, but there's a lot of good matchups. I'm gonna say Ravens win this one though. I don't love the Nick Chubb matchup. You get anyone like excited for Nick Chubb in this?
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
Fire up Derrick Henry. And hey, Mark Andrews is back. Mark Andrews could still finish as like tight end 1 on the season.
I don't know. So. I think this is a Henry spot for sure. I mean, they're all Henry spots apparently. Like even the non-Henry spots turn into Henry spots with 10 minutes left in the game. So whatever.
Yeah. Henry's getting 90 when they get to the Reds, when they get within the 5-yard line, he's getting the ball 90% of the time, which is kind of what a lot of people thought would happen. And that's just with the Lamar offense, that's a great position to be a part of. So I think Mark Andrews is back. Rashad Bateman, Jordan, like he was another guy on my waiver show. Like he seems to be maybe getting a little bit better. I know the targets aren't completely there yet, but he's had a couple good games, has a couple double-digit starts on the season. So I'm going to say Ravens win this. Anyone going Browns? Like, are we getting like we're almost getting that like Flacco-esque season coming again, like I'm pretty sure in like 6 weeks, I'll be pounding the table that Jameis Winston deserves comeback player of the year, if it's anything like last year. So everyone's going Ravens.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. What do we got next, Phil?
All right. The next game that we have, we could kind of fly through this game. Chiefs at Raiders. Current total right now is 9.5. Excuse me. Kansas City favored by 9.5. Current total is 42.5. I think I'll just break this game down. You're starting your studs. It looks like Gardner Minshew back at the helm, right? AOC is injured, so it looks like we're going to get some more Gardner Minshew back in action. Obviously, we just had, and it's slipping my name, just got traded to the Chiefs in the last couple of Hopkins. Yeah, excuse me. Just got traded to the Chiefs from the Titans. And so I don't know. Do you want to just talk about what you expect from him a little bit, Jordan?
I'm curious if he plays this week. I could see it kind of being like an Amari Cooper thing where he's very limited, doesn't have a playbook. I think he doesn't really hurt anyone. I think he helps like Mahomes, I think fantasy-wise a bit. I think maybe it'll help Worthy a little bit because I think maybe D-Hop will be that kind of guy on the outside. Maybe they're able to move Worthy a little bit inside, move him around a little bit more. But I think it's a good spot. I mean, I think D-Hop will be a little more motivated. I think he's just kind of been there in Tennessee this year. So, I mean, it's not like he's like the D-Hop from 4 years ago that would have transformed the team, but like, I think he helps him for sure. I don't know how much it really moves the needle. Maybe it's more of a real life thing than a fantasy thing. But
yes, no, I should have been clear. I was looking more for just like real life thing. I don't think there's huge fantasy implications there. If anything, I feel like he probably makes Travis Kelce even worse than he's already been, though. Just in terms of what Travis Kelce's been doing. But anything else you want to add, Setherton? I know you're like Raiders adjacent fan.
Yeah, he's in some Raider group text.
That's got some Raider group text.
Yeah, he owns a wife beater shirt, so that's got to be worth something to be part of Raider Nation. So,
I know none of them are excited they signed Desmond Ridder, but I think that's just where they are at a franchise, you know. So, I mean, sorry, Raiders. It's just I don't know where's the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going Chiefs.
The light at the end of the tunnel is a black hole, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That was such a good little,
That's a pretty good analogy there. Good job.
You're
Phil.
welcome, sir.
Nice.
I'm going, you know what? Can I take the spread?
no,
with how Patrick Mahomes is playing right now, we're not giving you the spread.
Okay, I'm taking Raiders. 3, 2, 1. All right, gentlemen, Monday Night Football. We have Giants at Steelers. Current total is 36.5. Pittsburgh with the man dangerous Russell Wilson is favored by 5.5. Russ was cooking and playing pretty good there. Had some flashbacks of his old glory days at Seattle, where he started the game terribly and they ended up picking up late in the game. So do we have anything to say? Is Mike Tomlin a genius? Anyone want to apologize? Like, what are we doing here?
Jordan, apologized to Phil. You were going off on Russ, early on Sunday Night Football, and then
he's 1-0 right now.
I don't know. It's
this
like
season.
It's like he turned into a different human being about halfway through the first half of that game. Like he looked awful, awful for the first couple of drives, and then I don't even know what turned it around. Like all of a sudden, he came out and looked like he was like prime Russell Wilson. It was bizarre. Like, I think really what happened is that he threw a couple balls up to George Pickens. George Pickens made some pretty good catches, and I think it got him confident a little bit. He started feeling himself, and then he started throwing the ball. Like, I don't know. It was weird because he looked about as bad as you can be at the quarterback position for literally a quarter and a half, and then somehow looked remarkable for the next 2.5 quarters. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, and that's what leads me to my start, Jordan, is, I'll just go to it.
You have a start.
Yeah, you want to alley-oop me here, Phil?
Yeah.
Or,
you know what, Trent? You have a start in this game. Let me hear it.
Yeah. So I got George Pickens and New York. They're middle of the road. First wide receivers giving up 24. Concrete jungle where dreams are made of, apparently. They're giving up 24.5 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver. Russ, I think, just gives Pickens more opportunity. Pickens has been kind of a diva the whole season a little bit. He's, with the eye black, stuff like that. But guess what? Russ has dealt with DK Metcalf in the past, who has some antics. I don't know if I'd call DK a diva, but he has had some antics where he maybe pushes guys off after the play, stuff like that. I think Russ can, knows how to deal with Pickens and knows how to give him the ball. Even with Cortland Sutton last year, Cam put up some good numbers with him. I think he can do it with Pickens. Just throw the guy the ball. He makes great plays. He makes some acrobatic catches. And yeah, I think if you have Pickens, I think you're happy with Russ there, because Fields, I thought, did a good job. I just think Russ will do a better job for George Pickens. And I think this is a good spot for him. So Steelers side of the ball.
Like
yeah. We've all been, maybe I'm just, too soon on Pickens again, though. Like every year I think Pickens is to be there. I think we finally have the guy that I think Pickens just needs targets, and I think Russ can get him the targets. I don't know.
And hopefully though, like he'll be able to rely on, I mean, I feel like I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's crazy to know that there's Russell Wilson somewhere still down inside the heart of Russell Wilson, right? Like it just, he's almost like he's there somewhere, as long as, who knows, maybe it would have been that overly fresh mountain air that just got to him. Like, who knows? Like the guy is.
Maybe him and Peyton just didn't get along. That might have just been the thing.
Yeah.
Najee has been good in the last few matchups. He's, against teams that he should take care of. So I think he can play Najee. I thought Warren looked okay the few opportunities he had. I think he's a little hurt still. I feel like Warren and Najee just complement each other well, Jordan. And
I agree.
Since that Colts defender said that Najee's soft and Cordell Patterson runs harder than him, he has played better. So I think Najee, you could probably lock him in for, some double-digit fantasy points. I don't know if he's going to, go off like he did, but maybe expect a touchdown and maybe 50 rushing yards, something like that. Giant side of the ball, you're firing up Neighbors. What else you doing there?
I think Tyrone Tracy's okay, but it's such a bad
That's
matchup.
it.
So yeah, just
Wandell.
Neighbors. No.
Did you see the list of players that have scored more points than Daniel Jones since his contract? There was
Probably a lot.
There was a tweet. It was like 20 soccer players. It was 2 safeties in the NFL and 1 punter have all scored more points. What?
More points? What do you mean?
Like more points. Like, let's say that Daniel Jones has scored, 20 or thrown 21 points worth of touchdowns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How was a punter scored points?
I think a punter had like 3 touchdowns or something. It was like the same or more points than Daniel Jones. It was I need to look for it and I'll try to put
How does
it
a
on
punter
there,
have scored touchdowns?
I think a fake punt through a touchdown pass. There was one punter on the list. I don't know. I didn't research it that well, but it was JPA Football tweeted it today. So it was a punter and 2. It didn't have names. It just had lists of what positions in different leagues. And there was like, So I don't know. The punter and the safety was the one that was like, that's a bad look.
Was it Canadian football?
I have no idea. That would actually make sense if that's what it is, but he didn't clarify that. But there was soccer on it. There was some hockey players. It just had players, but thought that would be a little bit better what I talked about than what it was. So sorry. Sometimes I start a sentence in my head and have no idea where it's going. I hope it just finds itself along the way, Phil.
Along the way. That's all right.
Yeah, that's Sunday Night Football. Or is that Monday Night Football?
I'm going Steelers.
We're back to the Russell Wilson primetime games, huh? So
let's go. I'm going back. Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers.
Jordan. Okay. All right. What do we got next, Phil?
All right. Moving on here. We have the Cowboys at the 49ers. San Francisco favored by 4.5. I'm sure you're torn right now, Trent. These are 2 of your favorite teams going up against each other on Sunday Night Football. Current total right now is 46.5. Seth, you have a sleeper in this game. And before I actually say who it is, I think, did we already talk about this? That Trent's dad and me did a bet at the Super Bowl, a 20-1 bet. I put in 1. Trent's dad put in 20 to see if this guy would score on the next drive. Sure enough, this dude scores on the next drive. I win $20. We got to do that again. We got to do a Thursday night football game, Trent. Like, I know you just had a kid, but like, dude, open up your home to your friends, man. Like, you have a great setup where we can hang out, have some food. Anyhow,
I'm bookmarking this segment, and I'm just going to tell my wife, like, hey, you need to listen to the pod at 44 minutes and 30 seconds. You know, it's not just me who wants people to come over. Like, I know you had a C-section, but like, this is for, you know, it's for the guys.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's for your mental health too. It's for
I need mental health. They say guys need 2 like
guys
social
nights a
events
night.
a week. Yeah, 2 guys night a week. You know, to be. But Seth has a sleeper in this.
Seth
pick.
has a sleeper. The sleeper that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Seth, do you want to talk about this
Super
guy?
Bowl MVP candidate?
He was. If they would have won, MVP candidate. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, so I have Juwan Jennings as my sleeper this week. We all know he went off that absolute week 3 for 11 catches, 175 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I'm not saying that's going to happen this week, but Ayuk out for the season with a knee injury. Debo just got hospitalized this week for sickness. Disclaimer now, though, Juwan did not practice as of Wednesday, but I think they're saying he's going to be able to play on Sunday night. So he's going to be operating potentially as wide receiver 1, but probably wide receiver 2 in a really young receiving core behind Ayuk and Debo, and Jennings really young. So I think he's going to be operating as 1 or 2. So he's going to get good volume. I think we can see numbers like he got week 1 and also snap percentage like he did week 3. So his numbers week 1 were 5 catches for 64 yards. I think that is kind of the area, possibly more. But I think he's going to have 75 plus snap percent. So he's going to be playing a lot of snaps this week if he plays. So I really like him as a sleeper. This should be a pretty competitive game. So I think the 49ers are going to have a healthy percent throwing and pass and rushing. So I like Jennings this week as my sleeper.
And Shanahan actually said today that Debo, like, he wouldn't rule him out. This is Wednesday, but he wouldn't rule him out. And it's like he has fluid in his lungs with pneumonia. But I saw somewhere that Shanahan's like, we'll see, you know, what happens on Sunday. But I kind of like the rookie a little bit more, Jordan. What do you think? Just because of upside of not knowing, but, you know, Juwan's shown he can make plays. And
I mean, Juwan had that crazy game the last time one of these guys was out. So he's been way more consistent this year and way more involved this year than he has been in years past. So I'd be shocked if Debo played, for what it's worth.
Yeah, me too.
Anytime people have fluid in their lungs, Trent, what are you talking about, dude?
I know all about that, man. Like, it's no, I do.
Did that happen to you?
No, but I've had 2 kids that happened to. Does that count? But they were newborn, so I don't know. All I'm saying is, Phil, I have more experience with it than you would think. So just like before you start a sentence, ask yourself, would an idiot say that? And if the answer is yes, don't say that. That's all I'm saying.
I forgot you're a doctor. All right.
Yeah.
I like how Trent said I've had 2 kids that had that, yet he still thinks that Debo's going to play. That makes you look like even more of a dummy. You're like, I think that you said there was a possibility that he could play. That's what you
That's
were
what Shanahan said today,
what his
not
coach
me.
said.
Yeah. So Trent,
who's the
being
idiot?
Trent being the thought leader
Again, Phil,
in fluid in lungs. No, Jordan, hear me out. Trent being the thought leader in fluid in lungs could have been like, man, I really disagree with this statement. There's no chance that he comes back. That's not what he said. He was just like, oh yeah, I mean, this guy obviously knows. Like, come on, man, use some logic there, brother.
Just so you know, my 2 kids that have, you know, been in the NICU, both they didn't give him any like, hey, like, they didn't tell him like they couldn't go full blast once they got out of there. So I don't know. Like, when you're under a week old, maybe there's a difference. Maybe there's not. The doctor didn't say like, hey, keep this kid indoors, make sure they get this certain amount of sleep. I don't know what happens after you get fluid in your lungs, Phil, but all I'm going to be honest with you,
they did say a lot of that, but there's absolutely no way that you have the like learning comprehension to make sure that you remember that. I guarantee your wife knows. She's going to listen to this part. I hope she gets to 44 and just happens to listen to 50 and is just like, man, my husband is a struggling human being. Let's just do some picks and move on, because I'm not giving you a rebuttal.
Phil, I just don't think you realize what Trent was like not agreeing with him, but it's okay.
Yeah. Honestly,
Hey,
Phil,
you know
I
what,
think
Seth? Hey,
all of
join
our
me one
listeners,
time,
Phil,
Seth.
yeah.
Join me one time. Instead of being an NPC, just get on. Just
You didn't even know what that was last year.
That's true.
No. Here's the
No,
thing, Phil. I'll
no,
just, like,
Trent did
all
say
of our
that.
listeners are wondering how you're even breathing right now, Phil. So I'm glad you're doing okay, man.
All
It's that
right.
special mouthpiece he wears.
Yeah.
All right. I
It's
am
that
going
fluid out of his
with.
lungs.
I am going. Shut up,
Yeah,
Trent.
just say Cowboys side. You're
No,
playing
I'm going.
Ferguson.
Oh, go
You're
ahead.
playing CD Lamb. I don't know if there's really anyone outside of those guys you really want to play. You can play. Yeah, I think that's the only guys.
Does McCarthy get fired if they lose this week?
We can only pray, Phil. We can only pray.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going Niners.
Yeah, middle of the road
I have
matchup for.
Niners.
Yeah.
It's not a middle of the road. It's not a middle of the road. The Niners have no one this week.
Here's the other deal. Okay, I'll go Cowboys, and hey, maybe I lose. Miss one pick here.
You're all right. Moving on. Cardinals at Dolphins. Current total is 46.5. Miami is currently favored by 3. Jordan, you have a sit in this game.
Yeah, I got to sit in this game. So I have Marvin Harrison Jr. as a sit. The Dolphins give up the second fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, third fewest receiving yards, and have only given up 2 touchdowns on the year to wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr., to be quite frank, has just been disappointing this year. He hasn't had more than 5 catches this year, only 70 plus yards once. I think that was the week 2 game where he had like 100 yards in the first quarter of that game. He hasn't had double-digit targets any game this year. So for me, it's a bad matchup. I personally think Kyler looks bad. He's taking a lot of sacks, holds the ball too long. I don't think he's doing the best job of getting the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. So I know there's been stuff coming out where his coach said they're not panicking about him, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't think Kyler looks good. I think this is a really tough matchup for wide receivers. He's not getting the volume you need. I think you can go ahead and sit Marvin Harrison Jr. this week.
And everyone made fun of that guy on X and clowned him after Kyler's big game a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember what it was, when he said, like, hey, we have so many weeks till Call of Duty comes out. Take this as a trade opportunity for Kyler Murray. And then like a week later, Kyler signed the sponsorship deal with Call of Duty and
chirped him.
Yeah,
he was chirping him.
Yeah, Kyler was chirping him too. So it looks like the guy might have been right. Marvin Harrison, I did a tweet today on X at tffdudes. If you want to follow us there and check all that stuff out, I just said who has been the most. I said besides CMC, who's been the biggest disappointment in fantasy football so far this year, and I did include a picture of Marvin Harrison Jr. on the post. And a lot of people said Marvin Harrison Jr. has been a just complete, the guys you would expect. Marvin Harrison, a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. guys, a lot of Dak Prescott guys, a lot of Patrick Mahomes, a lot of Puka Nacua, CD Lamb was on the list, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. So all the guys you all kind of thought. I said CM. Yeah. I said besides CMC's. I started it. So yeah. Dolphin side though, we got Tua back. He's not wearing a Guardian cap. He said that. We know for sure Tua's coming back.
That sounds right. And he said no Guardian cap. He said he wasn't going to be wearing one.
Yeah. So, which is shocking to a lot of people, which is also shocking to a lot of people that guys on this pod don't wear one of those while we do this podcast. So Tua, Waddle, you got Waddle and Hill. It could pay off here. The only thing that worries me with this Dolphins team, and maybe not so much this week, is just their offensive line is so terrible. Like, you got to be able to protect Tua.
Tua's better though with the bad offensive line, just because he's fine getting the ball out quick throws. I think A-Chain's in a really good spot this week. So
it is a good A-Chain spot. So all your Dolphins guys, Tyreek Hill went out, got interviewed today and said, like, all you guys in fantasy football, like, I'm coming this, he rallied the troops, which is what you want your player to do that you draft in fantasy football. So sounds like Tyreek Hill understood the assignment. We'll see if he can get it done for us and everyone who drafted him. I'm going to go Dolphins win this game, which feels weird saying, right?
I got Miami.
Yeah,
Miami. Miami Vice.
I'm also going Miami. All
What
right.
do we got next, Phil?
We are going to the Titans at Lions. Current total right now is 45.5. Detroit currently favored by 10.5. Seth, you have a sit in this game. But before we go, it's Montgomery and Gibbs want to be called what? Sonic and Knuckles? Is that the nickname? They wanted to be called Sonic.
Great TV show.
Great. So is Knuckles is Sonic's little brother, isn't he? Or what is Knuckles?
He's red.
Do you know who he is?
No, my daughter likes the movie, so we started watching the movie. And we got the classic like Happy Meal had a Sonic toy, so then she watched the movie. We watched a couple of the episodes, maybe a little too smart alecky for my daughter, and my daughter's kind of like me, so like the smart alecky stuff isn't always good. So we've kind of had to pull the reins back on Sonic and Knuckles, but she really likes it. But yeah, Knuckles is
he his cousin or brother or what is he?
I don't know. It's his best friend is all I know. And former rival.
I think Knuckles I think Sonic happens to be like the fast
good friend and rival.
And then Knuckles ends up to being he's the bruiser,
Oh, okay. It says, I looked it up. Sonic is Knuckles' good friend and rival. They have known each other for a long time, but their relationship seems to be somewhat complicated. The two do not understand their differences, Sonic being cool and cheeky, Knuckles being tough and serious. So I feel like I think is Montgomery Sonic and Gibbs Knuckles?
No.
It's the other way around, doofus.
It's the other way around.
Oh, my bad.
You're more like Eggman, Phil, and I'm like Knuckles.
Oh, nice.
You think Phil's like Eggman?
I don't know. I don't know who Eggman is. I need to look it up.
Yeah.
He's going to be so offended.
He's super cool, man. He's so cool. You would love him.
Yes,
Seth,
that is classic.
Seth has a sit here.
Yeah, so my sit this week is pretty bold. It's Knuckles, a.k.a. David Montgomery. So the Titans actually have a pretty good run defense. They've allowed 96 or less rushing yards per game. Gibbs had a uptick in snap percentage. Usually it kind of follows how the game script goes, or it's an equal 50-50. But Gibbs had an uptick because Montgomery had an injury scare. So it seems to be a minor injury. It seems like he's going to play this week. But from what I'm understanding here is I think the Lions are going to want to establish the run. Obviously, Montgomery is going to be used if he plays. But I think the Lions are going to opt to throw the ball here. The Titans defense is good against the run and the pass, but I think the Lions are going to find more success through the air. And Gibbs happens to be the better back when it comes to the receiving game. And so I like Gibbs a little bit more here. I just think Montgomery's going to have such a decent game at best that you're just if you can afford to not start him, I think you try to start somebody else who has a little more upside.
The receiving side I like on that, Seth. I just am such a David Montgomery fan that I just plug him into my lineup every single week and just count on him having a touchdown, and it's worked out for me a lot, except for last week. And I was looking at this game just with the Lions, and it's the Titans defense is tough. People don't really talk about it. They just talk about the offensive struggles. And I just kind of piggyback off of this, I almost made Sam Laporta my start of the week just because no JMO. I thought Laporta is going to be good, but this is the worst matchup for tight ends. But I still think you could get a good Laporta game just because Laporta's Laporta and no more Jamison Williams. But I couldn't get myself to make my start of the week go against the toughest one of the toughest tight end matchups. But no Jamison Williams. That guy is just his own worst enemy. It looks like, took some pads. And what do you got on this game, Jordan? Gibbs,
just a really tough spot for Tony Pollard on the Titans side. He's been good the last couple of weeks, but I really don't like him in this spot. And then I think it's a tough spot for Detroit. Probably toughest spot Detroit's had all year long. So I don't know if they're your normal plug and play like they have been.
Yeah, but Jordan, the one thing I would say with Pollard is Detroit got beat up a little bit on the ground last week versus the Vikings. Now that Vikings offensive line is pretty good, but you don't have Aiden Hutchinson anymore. And I know he's more of a pass rush guy, but maybe we end up seeing this Detroit
I guess
fall
that's
to
possible.
earth a little bit more.
It's possible.
That's the only reason, because I was thinking about Pollard too, like making him a sit, but I'm like, Aaron Jones actually had some success on the ground, and maybe it's just Aiden Hutchinson. They lost maybe one of their best maybe their best defensive player, right? Probably their best defensive player. So,
well,
for
the
sure.
other thing too is, I mean, how much do those corners get penalized? The Lions corners, and a lot of the times that they're able to keep up is because they have Aiden Hutchinson rushing. Like, I think that is a big loss, and that defense could start getting kind of like diced up a little bit. Those corners are super aggressive, very handsy, and but also they're able to keep up with coverage because the ball's coming out pretty quickly because Aiden. So I don't know. I think that is going to impact them a little bit on defense.
Yeah, and
obviously but I'm saying like the passing game too.
Yeah, Jordan Addison had a really good catch in that game versus the Lions, because you had him as I believe it was your start of the week last week, or maybe it was your sleep. But they said Branch in Detroit made some incredible plays that Addison probably would have had a really big game, but it just was Branch was just kind of playing out of his mind, kind of won the Lions that game. They said, I'm going Detroit wins this game.
Detroit.
Start your studs. I think you're finally getting to the point without Jameis Williams that Sam Laporta just becomes one of those guys that you just lock into your lineup. How long is Jameis Williams out?
2 games.
Only 2 games. Okay, then probably not what I was completely expecting.
I'm going Lions here.
Detroit, Detroit all the way across. Rough Goff matchup. We'll see if he has a little more completions this week.
All right, moving on here. We have the Saints at the Chargers. Chargers currently favored by 7.5, and the current total is 39.5. Trent, you have a sit in this game.
Yeah, I have a sit. It's Chris Olave. I don't know what it is with me and Saints wide receivers, but we just don't get along. And I know the volume will be there with guys like that. He did practice on Wednesday, but Chargers, they're the second worst matchup for fantasy wide receivers. The Dolphins are the toughest matchup for fantasy wide receivers, but the Dolphins, I just feel like with how bad, maybe that's skewed a little bit and teams have just ran on them a little bit more. But this is the second lowest point total on the week on Monday Night Football. The Chargers-Cardinals game, did you watch it? No, you probably didn't, because it was on ESPN Plus, and it was one of the lowest viewed Monday Night Football games ever. And they ended up getting beat up by James Conner in that game on the ground. This Chargers defense is really tough versus wide receivers, and the offense doesn't score that many points. So I don't think the Chargers score enough TDs for the Saints to just pepper Olave, to just smother him with passes the whole entire game. So I know you're thinking the volume's going to be there. I just hate this matchup so much, especially with who's playing QB. Do we got Hayner? Do we have Rattler? Taysom Hill might be coming back. I don't think they play him at quarterback in this situation, but I really don't think you have to play Chris Olave on Monday Night Football. I think you can go with someone else. And so I'm sitting Chris Olave in my fantasy leagues this week. Jordan, are you just hey, the volume will be there because, or what are you thinking? I'm kind of staying away from Saints. I think this is a Kamara game, probably.
They say you saw Kamara's been playing with a broken hand. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not see that. No.
Yeah, so, Kamara's been playing with a broken hand. I mean, I'm probably gonna just play Olave. It's hard. I have Jameson Williams in the league where I have, so I don't know. I'm probably gonna play Olave, but
it's hard. It's hard to not play him.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because he played the game he played and then got hurt. Rattler said he was just gonna throw him the ball a ton. And then we haven't seen what he's going to do. So I don't know. It's really hard. A little frustrating because we haven't really got to see it yet. And so now coming off the injury, Rattler's bad. I'm shocked they're starting Rattler, but whatever.
Yeah. No, and the other thing is just these Chargers, how the Chargers play football. It's they milk the clock. They keep their defense off the field. Then when their defense is on the field, that defense is good. They got a good pass rush, stuff like that. So it's not you don't get to that point where I don't think quarterbacks get into a rhythm. The Chargers are a weird team. They started out hot, and if they lost 3 in a row now, they've kind of fallen a little bit. They lost last week to the Cardinals.
They lost the Cardinals. Because Harbaugh had that.
They won that game.
Yeah. So they won against the Broncos, they won against the Broncos, and then they lost against the Cardinals. So they're 1 and 3 basically in the last 4 games, though, Trent, to your point.
Yeah. So, all right. I am going to say Chargers win this game. Chargers side of the ball, I don't really like. Man, remember when Justin Herbert was like an awesome fantasy football QB that you just locked into your lineup every single week? And I was hoping we'd get that with Lad McConkey, and even Johnson had some good plays. But like I said, I just think the defense and how Harbaugh calls plays, you just don't really want to play anybody outside of running backs for the Chargers. So, and Chargers defense, everyone going Chargers all the way across. There hasn't been too many people going against each other this week on these picks, guys. Step it up, guys.
I was the only one that went with the who did I go with?
Raiders.
I went with the Raiders. That was a bad choice.
I got Chargers.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers here.
I'm going Chargers.
Yeah, and that's all our starts and sits. So we just got games left here.
We just got games. Trent, you said Chargers, right?
Yeah, Chargers all the way across, Phil. I just said
My bad. Hey, my bad.
Hey, like I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but like, hey, if you could just listen a little bit, but I'm sure you get told this.
Fair point. Fair point.
I know I do.
All right, moving on here. We got the Packers at the Jaguars. Robert Saleh at the Packers facility with them during practice. Do you guys see that?
I did not.
Yeah, Saleh was at the Packers facility doing who knows what, but he was there. Obviously, like I don't know if he's going to come on as like,
that is weird, Phil, because you have Saleh who coached Aaron Rodgers. So you have that's a whole like weird. That's a whole weird love triangle right there. That's more of like I don't know what you call that.
To help at practice. I don't know what he's helping on at practice, but it was seen back on practice field on Wednesday in Green Bay. Packers head coach said former Jets coach will work with his team through Thursday this week, calling his role fluid. I don't know what that means specifically. So yeah, I don't really know, but he's there, right? So that's just a quick up. Did you guys really not see that?
No, I didn't. I did not. I saw, what was it? The only thing I saw was someone said that Devontae Adams should ask if he could get traded to the New York Giants so he could lose the Steelers 3 weeks in a row.
I did see that too.
I don't know how I missed that, Phil.
Yeah, so Saleh was there. We have Packers versus Jags. Green Bay favored by 4.5 in Jacksonville. Current total is 49.5. Jordan, what are we feeling, man? What do we talk to us here? What's going on? Let's give us a quick analysis.
Jordan loves smash spot. It's hard to know like who the receiver is going to be, So like Dub, I like Dubs. I think is my favorite. I think it goes Reed, obviously Jaden Reed, and then Dubs, and then it's like Watson, Wicks, like Kraft somewhere in there. Maybe like it goes Reed, Dubs, Kraft, Watson, Wicks. But I think it's a really good spot for Jordan Love. I think he absolutely smashes this Jaguars secondary. And then you got I think Brian Thomas, Evan Ingram is good for the Jags. Bigsby if ETN out. If ETN's in, I think it's just a mess. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's that pass that Love had to Tucker Kraft last week was crazy. That TD pass. I don't know how that wasn't picked. Went right through the guy's hands. Yeah, absolute smash spot. Maybe we get a Josh Jacobs big day too. Just fired up your. I think you summed it up pretty well there, Jordan.
Yeah.
So no need to
go.
Are you going to pick against the Jags? Seth chose Green Bay. Are you going to pick against the Jags again, Jordan, just to make sure they can keep their streak alive?
No, I'm gonna go Jags. I'm gonna pick the
Jags. Do it for the brand.
All right, I'm going. I am going. Go ahead, Trent.
No, Lawrence. Like I felt like the Jags. I don't know. It was the Patriots, but it seemed like they were making some plays. They had a little bit of fantasy relevance with all that stuff. So Packers are definitely a tougher matchup. But yeah, Packers.
Pack. All right, moving on here. Eagles at Bengals. Cincinnati currently favored by 2.5 at home. Current total is 47.5. Like you said, Trent, no starts or sits in this game. What do you guys want to talk about here?
Man, what do we think about Devonta Smith? Like maybe this is a good Devonta Smith game with
It's a good
Bengals
spot
are.
for him.
Yeah, I almost made Devonta my start of the week here.
I just don't
He
think
had
they
a
needed
bad.
to use him that much last week, Trent.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
they
Like,
got it
they-
done in the air with AJ Brown, and then they just ran the tar out of the ball,
mhm.
and Saquon killed him. So I think they just didn't need him. I don't think it's anything to necessarily panic about. It's just we just know that AJ Brown is the very highest pecking order. Like he is a pretty safe floor in my opinion. But I will think this game's going to be pretty high scoring and somewhat close. So I think Devonta Smith probably has some more value here.
Yeah, I think Devonta in the high scoring games where I want to play him. Lower scoring games, I think it's just a Saquon game, and AJ Brown's going to get his points. Get his catches, get his targets. So that's how I'd look at it there. Other side of the ball. Eagles actually have a pretty highly rated corner on PFF. I can't remember who it was, but the guy's been kind of locked down over there. I don't know if it was a nickelback or who it was, but man, I can't remember at the time. T. Higgins. This could be a really good game here as well. Only people I really don't want to play in it is maybe Cincinnati running backs, and I think outside of that you can play everyone.
It's just they're both the same. Well, I think Chase Brown's better, but they're really splitting snaps right now, so it's hard to like really distinguish between the two.
Burrow's got to win games. I'm gonna go Bengals win this though. Is everyone going Eagles besides me? Who's the home team?
I'm gonna go Cincinnati.
I'm going Cincy.
Yeah, no, I'm going Cincy too.
Seth might get one on us here.
Yeah.
All right, Seth. All right, moving on here. We have Bills at Seahawks. I say it every week, but this week it's more true than ever. America's game of the week. Current total right now is 47.5. Buffalo favored by 3.5 in Seattle, even though Seattle coming off a big dub last week. All right, what do we want to talk about here? Seth, anything you want to say about Walker, making some crazy plays on his birthday? Do you know it was Walker's birthday last week?
I did not know that. But yeah, I mean,
I'm surprised you didn't make me wish him a happy birthday on our Twitter account, Phil. So thanks for not doing that.
I think this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's safe. I think it's safe to say start all your guys you have. Interesting about that with Amari Cooper over there now. I think he's safe. I think he's good now. Probably he's not probably going to be asking Keon Coleman about plays this week, so I think he's okay. Seahawk guys. I mean, I don't really know how I feel about JSN / Lockett, but DK obviously been a stud this year. Walker's been surprisingly also really good, and also Geno Smith has been playing really well in terms of fantasy wise. So I like that too. In my opinion, the Seahawks should be down in this game. So we'll see some Geno Smith just airing the ball out. But yeah, it's the guys I like.
Do we think DK plays? He didn't practice with a knee injury, so he might be out.
Yeah, so it's maybe JSN Lockett split that. I don't think it's going to be one of them takes all the work. It's going to be probably split. So he's not practicing on Thursday either. So
good matchup for all running backs in this game. If you want to play, is Ray Davis? I feel like he's doing enough to kind of earn some deep league. I
don't know if he played much
if you have
last
to.
week, Trent.
He had some fantasy points. I thought he had 11 fantasy points.
The week before he did. No, you're talking last week.
I thought last week he had some fantasy points.
He played 24% snaps. Ty Johnson 22%. James Cook 53%. Ray Davis had 5 carries. He had a touchdown last week.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if Ray has done enough to kind of get some goal line work from James Cook, because
the game last year also a blowout.
Yeah. Last year, though, James Cook didn't have that goal line. He wasn't the red zone back. I'm wondering if Ray Davis maybe takes some of that away eventually. So maybe not here, but maybe in a week or so. Definitely a guy that needs to be rostered, because if James Cook gets hurt, I think they will give him the ball a lot. They've already done that once. I like Keon Coleman in this game too. I think Amari Cooper takes that pressure off of him of
I
having
think
to be the number
Shakir's
one.
good too. I like all of
Yeah,
them.
I think Cooper makes it better. The only guy I don't know is like it seems like a good Dalton Kincaid spot, but I just don't know if I trust Dalton Kincaid yet. Like
Yeah, I
maybe
know.
Cooper being there every time on red zone, it's like, oh, Dalton Kincaid almost came down with this pass. It's like he just seems to be right there. So we'll see with that. I'm going Bills win this game.
I'm sad to say it, but I think the Bills are going to win, but go Seahawks.
So you're going Bills here, Seth?
Yeah, I'm going Bills. It
All
bit
right.
me last week, though. I picked the Falcons and the Seahawks won, so.
You also almost went to that game.
Yep. Almost doesn't count.
Trent, who do you take? Buffalo?
I'm taking Buffalo.
Almost doesn't count. What do they say in horseshoes and hand grenades? Yes,
It only counts in that, not almost in this.
I said almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Yeah.
I said
who'd you take?
almost counts.
Who do you think, baby? Hawks Nation, son. Let's go.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
He's wearing his beast mode
Is
shirt.
that even in a question right now? All right, moving on here. We have Colts at Texans. Current total is 46.5. Current total right now is 55. Excuse me. Current total is 46.5. Houston favored by 5.5. Yeah, I mean, what do we want to talk about here?
Joe Mixon spot, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over. Colts are the best tight end matchup, so I'm going to say Dalton Schultz also. Hopefully Stephon Diggs doesn't start a fight before the game.
Trent, they're the best. The Colts are the best spot for like anybody. Like they're such.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great spot for Stroud, Tank Dell, Steph Diggs, like Joe Mixon, all of them.
Yeah.
So
Stroud was another guy
playing,
on that list for most disappointed.
I don't think you're playing anyone on the Colts unless Jonathan Taylor is playing.
Yeah. It'd have to be Jonathan Taylor, and the Colts games are so rough to watch.
You can't play the wide
terrible.
receivers with Anthony Richardson. You just can't do it. So it's Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. The only two guys who you can play.
You just plug in Michael Pittman and hope that Joe Flacco takes over in the second quarter.
Yeah, that's I think he's unplayable with Anthony
No,
Richardson.
I think you're right. Like
for the record, Trent, we all told you that.
No, I
3
know.
months
I know
ago.
you did. I had a small sample size, and
you did with it what you're not supposed to do with it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't get fantasy points for tush pushing your running back into the end zone like what Anthony Richardson's been doing. But that's one. And then he started out so good week 1 too, but it's just been a complete downward spiral since then. So,
are we all taking Houston?
Yes, sir.
All right, Phil.
You know what, friend? I'm just moving along here. Bears at command. I think I may have froze there. Did you hear what I said for who I chose?
No. You said, yeah. It just wasn't funny.
Okay. All right. Moving on here. Bears at Commanders. Actually, we're just going to cover 2 games at once. Bears at Commanders. We'll also cover Jets at Patriots just to kind of make this interesting so we don't know what we're really talking about here. Bears at Commanders, 43.5. Chicago currently favored by 2.5. Jets at Patriots. Current total is 41.5. Jets are currently favored by 7. So I'm going to say, Seth, you start and just let us know.
People don't know what we're talking about. How many times a day do people say that to you? Like, hey, man, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, man. Probably more than I'd like to know. All right. Go ahead, Seth.
Pretty sure Jaden Daniels is going to be doubtful. So this was the Sunday night game. Looks like it got flexed.
No, it got flexed to the afternoon. They didn't flex it to Sunday night. It was like a weird, like
it was the Sunday night game, this. I thought.
Oh, it was? No,
yeah.
I think they flexed it from the morning slate to the afternoon slate. Like it was a weird thing how they flexed it. Like I don't know.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be a primetime game, but I guess I was wrong.
I did too.
Jaden Daniels is doubtful. I would have picked the Commanders, but now that it's Mariota, I'm not picking the Commanders. So I'm going to go Bears here. Jets, Patriots, Devontae Adams maybe finally does something. I mean, I know it was his first week last week. But maybe we'll see if the Jets can actually do something this week. I don't know.
Middle of the road matchup for DeAndre Swift versus the Commanders. What do you think with a good spot for Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen on the Bears side? What do we think about Terry McLaurin? Is he unplayable with Marcus Mariota?
No,
Did
I think he's
some
fine
decent
with
stuff.
I think he's fine with Mariota. I think him and Brian Robinson are in great spots. So, not great spots, but spots you're gonna play them too. And then I agree, Caleb's in a good spot with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Adunze. He's just not quite there yet, which kind of sucks. But yeah. And then on the Jets Patriots, Brees, Garrett Wilson, Devontae, and that's about all I need in that game.
Yeah, it's not a good Drake May. It's like you really want to pick a guy up on waivers who's going up against the Jets. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's not a good. You're just picking him up for future games. Like Drake May's looked good. I'm curious to see how he does in this matchup, but it's not a good matchup. And it sounds like Mayo's like losing that locker room, like even like, or maybe not locker room, but like Bill Belichick. Like I don't know if you saw that, him saying like, I don't know why he's saying these guys are soft. Like he wasn't saying that a year ago when we were coaching them together, and went on McAfee, went on a couple different shows. So a lot of mumblings that maybe Mayo doesn't even make it throughout the season there in New England. So
I'd be surprised at that. I'm taking Washington.
You see Jalen Polk?
What do you say?
You see his, I don't know. He like after he had some like weird like goodbye message or something on Instagram after the game, like after Mayo's I don't know. It's
who knows?
Just
weird.
People.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Trent? Do you wish Dan Quinn would have taken over the head coaching job at
2 years ago? That's 2 years ago. That's what I wanted, and I kind of wanted it last year. After the playoff game, I didn't really want it after they got killed by the Packers. But yeah, right now I wish it would have been Dan Quinn. Like his first year there with what he did with Parsons, I was like, I want Dan Quinn to be the next coach.
I got Washington, New York. Trent, what do you have?
You're still going Washington?
I'm going Chicago and New York. You're still going Washington without Daniels, Jordan? Or are you just thinking he might play?
No, I think they win no matter what.
I'm going Bears, Jets.
I'm riding with Mariota, and I'm going with the Jets. All right. Do you want me to do the recap of our starts and sits here?
Yeah, just do the recap of the start. Do all starts, then do sits and sleepers, just...
I know how it works. All right. So we have our starts across the board. Trent had George Pickens. Jordan had Javonte Williams. Seth had Rashad White. For our sits, Trent had Chris Olave. Jordan had Marvin Harrison. Seth had David Montgomery. And then for our sleepers, Trent had Cedric Tillman. Jordan had Jalen McMillan. And Seth had Juwan Jennings to close it out there. Anything else you want to say, Trent? You're on paternity leave. I think you're at the day spa today when I spoke with you. Anything you want to add here?
No, I'm not going to say anything because anything I say will just be held against me. And if my wife doesn't hear it, Phil will be like, hey, you should hear it. Because Phil kind of snitches on me, guys. It's not cool. And it's like, Phil, I just want to say, Phil, you've come a long way, Phil. Like when we first started this pod, you struggled reading and stuff like that. So you're doing good. You read all those starts and sleepers, really good. But everything's going good.
So dumb. All right. Anything else, Seth? You want to add anything, Jordan?
No.
I don't.
Nope.
All right. Well, hey guys, check out the DFS show on YouTube at tffdudes. I'll be back on Monday with my early week 9 waiver wire ads. Hey, I normally say take care at the end of the show, but hey, let's win those leagues. Let's win those matchups. Good luck this week, guys, and take care.
This has been another episode of the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow. For more information, go to www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com. And remember, we are sorry for absolutely nothing.